Without further ado, Vice President Kamala Harris.
Vice President, thank you so much for doing this and making the time.
Of course.
A lot of people did not think it was appropriate for you to be here today. You have pushed false claims about some of your rivals.
Americans across the country say is their number one concern, and that's the economy. Everybody that's on the Democratic side is whether or not voters are better off now than they were 4 years ago.
You have told 4 congresswomen of color to go back to where they came from. You have used words like animal and rabbit to describe black district attorneys. You've attacked black journalists, calling them a loser, saying the questions that they ask are, quote, stupid.
Again, so it's not just about getting by, but getting ahead. Please.
I'd like to ask you more about the opportunity economy. Housing is part of it, as well as expanding the earned income tax credit, financial support, as you mentioned, for first-time buyers.
Why should black voters trust you after you have used language like that?
I don't think I've ever been asked a question so in such a horrible manner. First question. You don't even say, hello, how are you? I think it's a very rude introduction. I don't know exactly why you would do something like that. And
all right, guys, so we got to react to this interview that Kamala Harris is doing, another softballer, okay, with the National Association of Black Journalists. Now, she decided that she didn't want to show up to their first conference when Trump was there, right, to say it to her face. No, she didn't want to do that, okay, and now she's decided that she's going to do an interview with the panel of liberals, okay, in Philadelphia. Now, I want you guys to notice, again, the moisture in regards to the male representation here on the panel, right? They're definitely not putting black men in the best light, okay, in regards to journalists interviewing Kamala Harris, right? So, again, you got 3 liberals here. And at the beginning of this video, I want you guys to notice the difference between how they greeted President Trump versus how they greeted Kamala Harris, okay? When they greeted Trump, the first question was hostility, right? It was hostile from the beginning. With Kamala Harris, it was joyful. How you doing? We're glad to see you. It's an honor to be here, right? To be interviewing you. They treated her with respect, okay? Now, again, those were different journalists, but regardless, again, you have to notice just how overtly left-wing this panel is. Do you think that they're going to give Kamala Harris any pushback? Are they going to challenge her on any of her extreme policy positions or the flip-flops that she has done over the years, right? No, they're not going to do that, okay? And look no further than the framing of this question about immigration, which has nothing to do with the actual real issue, which is the fact that the border is wide open under Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. No. They don't frame the question like that. No. They frame the question like this. Take a look.
Madam Vice President, I want to move to Springfield, Ohio, and what's happening there. We've seen school closures, parents worried about their kids leaving the home because of racist conspiracy theories that I won't repeat here, but they have been repeated by leaders on the Republican side, President Trump, former President Trump, and Vice Presidential nominee J.D. Vance. From your perspective, is this just a case of irredeemable racism that can't be mitigated by any rational action, or is this a situation in which a federal response could help this community heal? There's a question of resources and
Well, no, I'll let you finish and then I'll speak.
No comments.
Yeah. So again, that is a hell of a frame on that question, okay? He fluffed that up, okay? Because the question at its core is about immigration, right? It's about illegal immigration. It's about the crisis that has happened in this country because of all of these migrants coming into this country, right? That is the actual core issue, okay? But instead of actually highlighting the core issue, which is the failure of Kamala Harris's policy, because again, that's not the point of this panel. They're not here to educate people or to get people the real answers on their pressing questions. No, they're here to fluff it up for Kamala Harris. And boy, he fluffed this question up, right? He said, listen, there's so many threats going on in Springfield. A lot of them have been debunked, right? In the sense that the bomb threats, they're not coming from Trump supporters. They're hoaxes from overseas, right? Not mentioned, right? They don't mention that, by the way, okay? And they say, well, is this racism? Is this racism, or is this a case of a federal response in which we have to do something about resources? Resources, right? He didn't frame it from the perspective of, well, is this a problem with the border? Is this a problem with the policies of the Biden-Harris administration in which they are allowing these people to take advantage of the asylum-seeking system, right? Or should we be granting these work authorization permits to these people trying to get into the country illegally? Should we be granting them these permits and then importing them into small towns en masse in which they're going to be taking the jobs and using up the resources, right? Again, this is the real framing that this guy should be using on this question, right? Because that's what this is about at its core. But again, in order to distract from that, to deflect from that, no. You have to frame it like this, right? Oh, no, this is racism. Is this racism, or does the government needs to do more in terms of giving out more money, right? They need to give more money to help foreigners assimilate into this country. Fascinating, right? Just as fascinating as the fact that Kamala Harris took the time to lecture President Trump on the dangers of his rhetoric and to lecture him on how he needs to be aware of what happens as a consequence of his rhetoric just a couple days after a second attempted assassination on the former president, motivated by the extreme rhetoric coming out of her mouth, Joe Biden's mouth, all the Democrats. She said this in response to this question.
You know, there were children, elementary school children, who it was school photo day. You remember what that's like? Going to school on picture day? When you are bestowed with a microphone that is that big, there is a profound responsibility that comes with that. That is an extension of what should not be lost in this moment, this concept of the public trust. To then understand what the public trust means. It means that you have been invested with trust to be responsible in the way you use your words, much less how you conduct yourself. And, you know, whether it is refusing to rent to people, rent to black families, whether it is taking out a full-page ad in the New York Times against 5 innocent black and Latino teenagers, the Central Park 5, calling for their execution, whether it is referring to the first black president of the United States with a lie, birther lies. And look, the American people deserve, and I do believe want better than this. I do believe that. I know, the vast majority of us as Americans know we have so much more in common than what separates us. I know that. I know that regardless of someone's background, their race, their gender, their geographic location, I know that people are deeply troubled by what is happening to that community in Springfield, Ohio. And it's got to stop. And we've got to say that you cannot be entrusted with standing behind the seal of the President of the United States of America, engaging in that hateful rhetoric that, as usual, is designed to divide us as a country, is designed to have people pointing fingers at each other. It's designed to do that. And I think most people in our country, regardless of their race, are starting to see through this nonsense and to say, you know what, let's turn the page on this. This is exhausting and it's harmful and it's hateful and grounded in some age-old stuff that we should not have the tolerance for. So let's turn the page and chart a new way forward and say, you can't have that microphone again.
Yeah. So I'm pretty sure a lot of people are deeply troubled by what is happening in Springfield, but not for the reasons that you think, Kamala, right? It is actually for the reason that you refuse to talk about, which is that you imported 20,000 migrants from another country, right? A third world country into the middle of an American town of only 60,000 people. That is what people are actually deeply concerned about. They're deeply concerned about the fact that you're getting crime that is happening as a result of this mass illegal immigration. You're also having these people use resources, putting a strain on the social safety net. They are taking jobs that should be going to Americans, that American citizens should be working. And in the process of doing that, they're also lowering wages. Okay, they're putting downward pressure on wages because they're willing to undercut the American worker, while rent prices are increasing because the government is subsidizing these illegal immigrants to move into these communities. Okay, and they're getting all these vouchers and things through nonprofit organizations helping them move into these towns. So now you are pricing out the regular normal people there who can't compete because they don't have government vouchers helping them get houses and things like that. Yeah, I mean, it's just an absolute disaster, right? So I think a lot of people are upset and pissed off about what's happening there, but it's not for the reasons that you're outlining, Kamala. And that's what these people don't understand. The more they talk about Springfield, the more they just highlight your failures, right? Springfield is a great example of the failure of the Joe Biden and Kamala Harris administration. And they refuse to take any accountability for it. They rather boohoo, whine, and cry racism and tell you that you're a bigot if you talk about it, right? Instead of actually addressing the problem, okay? That's what it is. These people will cause harm to American citizens, okay, through their policies, and then turn around and say you're a bigot if you complain about it, right? If you got a problem with it. Amazing. Absolutely amazing. So that leads me to the next part of this interview I want to talk about, dealing with race, which is reparations, okay? And Kamala Harris is going to get confronted on supporting, at the very least, studying reparations in the past. So I want to react to it because, again, these are the type of segments here that are designed to try to get black people to vote for Kamala Harris using the same old trick that the Democrats used out in California, the old let's study reparations okie doke that, again, they're going to use to try to get people to vote for this woman. So without further ado, let's get into it.
Jackson Lee's signature bill, one of a few, was H.R. 40, which would create a commission to study the history of U.S. slavery and study the issue of reparations. She introduced H.R. 40 every session of Congress, taking up the mantle from Congressman John Conyers. This is a bill that you have co-sponsored as a U.S. Senator. Yet, this has, despite the fact that this has been, similar commissions have been created on the state level and on the local level, is yet to pass in Congress, let alone come out of committee. Congresswoman Jackson Lee, Congresswoman Barbara Lee, and other advocates have called for President Biden to take executive action to create this commission. Would you, as president, take executive action to create this commission, or do you believe that it should happen in Congress?
Well, first of all, as you mentioned, Sheila Jackson Lee, she was an extraordinary leader who we just recently lost, and she was a friend and a real champion for so many issues. So I feel compelled to say that about her. On the issue of what we need to do going forward, look, first of all, we just need to speak truth about history in spite of the fact that some people are trying to erase history and try and teach our children otherwise. We need to speak truth about the generational impact of our history in terms of the generational impact of slavery, the generational impact of redlining, of Jim Crow law. I could go on and on and on. These are facts that have had impact.
Okay, so Kamala Harris, what she's doing here is that she's pulling the old okie doke that Democrats do every single time they're confronted on reparations. Now, I think that reparations is a waste of time. That's why the bill is not coming out of committee, because Democrats aren't even trying to really give a serious signal to black people that they actually want to give out reparations. Now, again, what they really want to do is to pretend as if they're open-minded to it, right? Well, we're open-minded to studying it, okay? But that's the most we're going to do, right? We're not going to do more than that, which the California Democrats, the most progressive Democrats in the country, have proven, right? they only want to just study it, right? They don't want to do anything more than that, right? Listen to Kamala Harris. For those black people that think that Kamala Harris is going to give them reparations, listen to her. She's deflecting. She's dodging. She's playing the same game. She's doing the same tap dance they all do. Oh, well, instead of actually being direct and saying whether or not you support studying reparations, you ain't even got to say you support giving out reparations. She can't even say directly that she supports studying reparations. She says, well, the other side is racist, right? There's so much racism in this country. They're trying to take away your history. Okay, they're trying to ban books, right? This is the type of stuff they say. Why are they saying this? Because they're trying to give you reasons to vote for them based off race that have nothing to do with reparations, right? They want you to think, well, voting for us, you should do so if you're black, not because we're going to give you reparations, but because we're going to cure racism, right? Which is even more ridiculous than promising reparations, to be quite honest with you, right? This is the okie doke here. And you have, unfortunately, a significant amount of people in this country that will fall for this, okay? That will say, well, I'm not getting reparations, but they're gonna fight racism, okay? They're gonna fight racism. But I'm just here to tell you, Democrats are not gonna cure racism because they're the cause of it, really. I mean, a lot of racism in this country comes from Democrats. Their party is built on hate and division, okay? And then on top of that, you're not getting reparations. No party is gonna give you reparations, okay?
And we need to speak truth about it. And we need to speak truth about it in a way that is about deriving solutions. And frankly, I think that we, and part of that is studying it to figure out exactly what we need to do. But part of what we can do right now is, for example, what I'm talking about in terms of building an opportunity economy, which is addressing explicitly the obstacles that historically and currently exist and dealing with them. Student loan debt, medical debt, bias in home appraisals. What we need to do in terms of dealing with an issue that I have championed for years, black maternal mortality.
Listen to all this stuff she's talking about. Most of this stuff, again, they're not issues of racism. They're issues of personal responsibility, right? And your own personal behaviors. Like when she talks about the disparities in healthcare and stuff like that, again, that's because, just to be honest with you, when you look at black women, they just tend to weigh more. They just tend to be heavier than other women. That probably accounts for 90% of the reason the disparities exist. But she thinks, no, the government is going to come in and help you. We're going to give you some handouts. That's going to fix the problem. It's not going to fix the problem. Okay?
Which is the fact that black women are 3 to 4 times more likely to die in connection with childbirth than other women.
Again, we know why that is, right? That has more to do with personal choices and lifestyle than racism, right? Or race or some type of bigotry.
And we know that the reasons for that include disparities that pre-exist her pregnancy, including disparities that exist in the system during her pregnancy.
Yeah, yes. Again, a part of that, most of that, again, is being overweight, is weighing too much, not living a healthy lifestyle. That is the overall reason for that, okay? But again, Kamala's not going to talk about that. She's just going to try to promise you that she can fix this magical racism without actually really identifying the underlying problem, which is not racism.
So all of those things must be addressed.
But do you have a position on whether that should happen, this commission should happen through executive order or via Congress?
I think Congress ultimately will have the ability to do this work. I'm not discounting the importance of any executive action, but ultimately Congress. Because if you're going to talk about it in any substantial way, there will be hearings, there will be a level of public education and dialogue that, and I think that was part of the spirit behind the congressional action thus far, to ensure that everyone can participate in this conversation in a way that elevates knowledge about history. Yes. And the reference points that have that are the impetus of this conversation. Yes,
let's continue to guilt white people about it, right? In order to, keep having this conversation over and over and over again, where we already know it's not going to happen, but we just want to continue to do it, right? We just want to continue to stir hate and division in this country, okay, with this conversation instead of just closing the door on it, right? Like she said, turning the page on it and saying, yeah, we're not giving you guys reparations, okay? We're not going to continue to waste time on this. This is what she should be saying. But again, what she's basically saying is, well, I'm not going to make any promises that you're actually going to get it, right? But we might study it. We don't know, right? I'm not saying I'm against it, but I'm just saying that we might do something that really is not going to do anything at all, but both of us, right? Both of us, okay? Because, hey, we might do something, but we don't know. This is ridiculous. This is nonsense.
Especially, again, when people are trying to deny history. When people are, so-called leaders are saying that enslaved people benefited from slavery. I mean, let's talk about the delta here in terms of the work that needs to be done. It's profound.
Wow. Incredible stuff. Absolutely incredible. Repeating lies, falsehoods, race hustling. Yeah, this is what Kamala Harris is, right? This is what this event was. This was a poor excuse of an interview. All of these so-called journalists, these propagandists should be ashamed of themselves. Everybody involved should be ashamed of themselves. And once again, we have nothing from Kamala, right? Nothing from Kamala. She's done, 3 or 4 interviews now, plus a debate, and we still learn nothing. So, hey, let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.